I caught my boyfriend texting his ex, and now I don't know what to do. 26F. Have been dating my boyfriend, Adam, 27M, for a little over 2 years now. We met through mutual friends, and it's honestly been the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. He's thoughtful, caring, and just generally a good guy. We've talked about moving in together, and I could see myself building a future with him. However, something happened recently that's making me question everything. Adam and I were spending the weekend together at his place, and it was one of those lazy days where we just chilled, watched Netflix, and ordered takeout. He left his phone on the couch while he went to grab something from the kitchen. I wasn't snooping, but a notification popped up on his phone screen. It was a message from someone named Lily, and it said, "Can't stop thinking about you. Do you ever miss me?" My heart sank. Lily is his ex-girlfriend. I knew they were still in touch occasionally. She's part of his larger friend group, and they dated for a couple of years before breaking up about 4 years ago. But I didn't think much of it because, from what he's told me, their relationship ended amicably, and he reassured me that there were no lingering feelings. But this text, it was hard to ignore. I immediately started spiraling. Did they still have feelings for each other? Was he hiding something from me? Did I miss the signs? I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I sat there for a moment, trying to calm down. When Adam came back from the kitchen, I asked him as casually as I could who Lily was texting him. He looked at me, then at his phone, and I could see the hesitation on his face. That hesitation confirmed all my fears. He told me that Lily had been going through a tough time lately and reached out to him for support. He said they've been talking more than usual, but that it was purely platonic and he didn't want to upset me by mentioning it. He showed me their conversation, and most of it was pretty innocent, her venting about work, life stuff, etc. But then, there were a few messages that made me uncomfortable, like her saying she missed their late-night talks and how much she appreciated having him in her life. He didn't exactly shut it down, but he didn't encourage it either. He responded with things like, "I'm here for you, and hope things get better soon." I asked him why he didn't tell me they were texting so frequently, and he admitted that he was afraid I'd overreact. He kept saying it wasn't a big deal and that he didn't want to worry me over nothing. But to me, it feels like a big deal. He's been emotionally supporting his ex-girlfriend, and while I don't think he's physically cheated, the emotional connection makes me feel uneasy. I told him how I felt, and he apologized, saying he didn't mean to make me feel insecure. He promised to set boundaries with Lily, and said that I'm the only one he wants to be with. But I can't shake this feeling that something isn't right. If everything was innocent, why hide it from me? And why didn't he shut down her flirtatious comments? The trust I had in our relationship feels shaken, and now I'm second-guessing everything. Adam has been extra attentive and sweet since our conversation, but part of me wonders if it's because he feels guilty. I don't want to be the jealous girlfriend who can't handle her partner talking to his ex, but I also don't want to ignore red flags. I've never been in a situation like this before, and I'm not sure how to move forward. Do I just take him at his word and move on? Or should I be more cautious about this? Am I overreacting, or is this something that could be a bigger problem down the road? Update. I decided to talk to Adam again, a few days after my initial post. I told him that while I appreciate his apology and the promise to set boundaries, I still felt uneasy about the situation. I asked him if he would be willing to go to couples therapy with me, just to make sure we're on the same page moving forward. To my surprise, he was completely on board. He said he understood why I was feeling the way I was, and that he didn't want me to have any doubts about our relationship. He also told me that, after our first conversation, he had already texted Lily to let her know that they needed to stop talking as frequently and keep things strictly friendly. He showed me the text he sent her, and her response was pretty respectful. She said she understood and that she didn't want to come between us. I felt a little better after that, but I still think therapy could help us navigate this and communicate better. Adam seems genuinely committed to making things work, and I'm hopeful that we can come out of this stronger. I love him, and I don't think he's intentionally trying to hurt me, but I've learned that trust isn't just about what someone does, it's about how they handle situations that could potentially hurt the relationship. I want to make sure we build a strong foundation so this kind of issue doesn't come up again in the future. Second story, I just found out my husband has been secretly taking care of his ex-girlfriend for years, and I'm devastated. I'm writing this because I feel like my whole world has been flipped upside down, and I don't know where to go from here. My husband Eric and I have been married for 7 years, and we've known each other for almost 10. For most of that time, I believed we had a rock-solid relationship, full of love, trust, and honesty. We have a 5-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter, and until recently, I thought we were living our dream life. Now I'm not so sure. Eric and I met through mutual friends, and we clicked instantly. He was always the most caring, thoughtful person, and I fell in love with him because of how generous and kind he was to everyone around him. He would go out of his way to help others, which was one of the traits I admired most about him. We dated for about 2 years before getting engaged, and we've always been that couple people look at and think, wow, they really have it all together. But now I realize there was a side of Eric I never knew existed. About 3 months ago, I noticed something odd. Eric was becoming more secretive, and he started taking more trips for work, something he hadn't done much of in the past few years. He works as a financial consultant, so occasional travel is normal, but these trips were happening more frequently, sometimes on short notice. He would leave on a Friday and come back late Sunday night, which seemed strange because most of his work trips before had been during the week. At first, I tried not to overthink it. I trusted him completely, and I figured work was just getting more demanding. But then, little things started to pile up. He was texting someone late at night when he thought I wasn't paying attention. His phone, which used to be left around the house casually, was now always on him, locked and face down. And then, I overheard him having a hushed phone conversation one night after the kids were asleep. The tone of his voice was soft, almost soothing, and when I asked who he was talking to, he brushed it off, saying it was just a coworker dealing with some work-related stress. I didn't believe him, but I didn't push it. I didn't want to be that wife who snoops through her husband's things or jumps to conclusions. I kept telling myself that it was probably nothing, that I was just being paranoid. Curious, I opened the email. What I read made my stomach drop. It was a long email from Megan, thanking Eric for all his help and support over the past few years. She talked about how she didn't know how she would have made it through some of her hardest times without him, and how grateful she was that he was still in her life, even after all these years. She referred to him as her rock, and mentioned how much she looked forward to their next getaway. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Eric had been in contact with Megan for years behind my back, and not just in contact. He had been actively involved in her life, helping her financially and emotionally, and even going on trips with her. My mind was racing. All those weekends when he said he was traveling for work, was he really with her? I felt sick. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through more of their emails. There were dozens of them, dating back years. Some of them were casual, talking about life updates or reminiscing about the past, but others were more intimate. Megan talked about her struggles with her mental health and how Eric was the only person she felt she could rely on. She referenced gifts he had sent her, expensive ones, like a necklace for her birthday and a plane ticket to visit her family. Eric had been supporting her financially in ways I never knew about. He was using our money to take care of her. I confronted Eric that night. I couldn't hold it in any longer. When I asked him about Megan, he didn't deny it. He admitted that they had stayed in contact after we got married, and that he had been helping her out financially because she had fallen on hard times. He claimed that nothing physical had ever happened between them since we got together, and that he only continued to help her because he felt guilty about how their relationship had ended. He tried to reassure me that it wasn't a big deal, that he had only been trying to be a good friend, but to me, it felt like a massive betrayal. I had no idea he was still so deeply involved in her life. I asked him why he never told me, and his response was devastating. I didn't think you'd understand. He didn't think I'd understand? What was there to understand? He had been secretly supporting his ex-girlfriend for years, using our money to fund trips and gifts for her, all while keeping me in the dark. How was I supposed to be okay with that? I told him I needed space, and he's been staying with a friend for the past few weeks. I've barely spoken to him since. He's reached out a few times, asking if we can talk, but I don't even know what to say. I feel completely betrayed. The trust I had in him is shattered, and I don't know if I can ever forgive him for this. The hardest part is trying to figure out where to go from here. We have 2 young children who adore their father. I don't want to tear our family apart, but at the same time, I don't know if I can stay in a marriage where my husband feels the need to keep such massive secrets from me. What else has he been hiding? Can I ever trust him again? I've been struggling with whether or not to tell my friends and family about what's going on. Part of me wants to confide in them, but another part of me is ashamed. I feel like I should have seen the signs sooner, like I was blind to what was happening right in front of me. But how could I have known? Eric was always so good at making everything seem normal. He was the perfect husband and father, always attentive, always loving. I never would have guessed he was capable of this kind of deception. I feel so lost. I'm angry, hurt, and heartbroken. But most of all, I'm confused. How do you move forward when the person you thought you knew turns out to be someone completely different? Is there a way to rebuild trust after something like this? Or is our marriage doomed?